What's going on, Alabama football fans? We are now just 14 days away from Alabama kicking off at Bryant-Denny Stadium against Western Kentucky for the first game of the season. We just wrapped up our Bengals watch party for today, and I cannot wait to, do our watch parties with you guys for Alabama football all season long. We're going to be doing every single game, so do not miss out. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. That's youtube.com/@RollTideTV. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be breaking down pretty much what Kalen DeBoer said during his press conference today after Alabama wrapped up their second scrimmage of this fall practice time. There's been a lot going on, a lot of position battles. Some guys been getting dinged up and stuff like that. So we're going to pretty much just break down what Kalen DeBoer said at his press conference today. I think the most notable takeaway from his press conference today was some of the injury news that he came out and talked about. Now, there's not like a whole lot of, guys are going to be missing a lot of time or anything like that, but I do think it is very important to note some of the injuries that Kalen DeBoer did talk about. This is exactly what he said about those injuries. He said, we got through relatively healthy. Some things this week with a couple of guys that will hold them out probably for a few practices, but by the end of the week, we should, for the most part, be having the guys that we need to be out there practicing, getting them ready for week 1 against Western Kentucky. And the most important two notable names when it comes to those injuries, Jam Miller and Jaeden Roberts. Jam Miller just didn't go out there and practice today. They were pretty much giving him the day 4 rest. Kalen DeBoer did say that if they wanted to, if it was a big game, they could have put him out there. But for the most part, they just wanted to give him some rest. He was dinged up and he, had that non-contact jersey on this past week. And then right guard Jaeden Roberts was also got injured during today's practice. Now, DeBoer said that, he'll probably take it light the first couple of days, but once, they really get into that game week against Western Kentucky, Jaeden Roberts should be back and ready to go. Don't know exactly what that injury was, but, we'll keep a note on it. Might just be for both of these guys, a little bit of like soft tissue soreness or something like that. So we will monitor that and keep you guys updated if anything happens relative to those two guys. Now, we talked about it last week. There were, a bunch of notable names out. I think we had like 9 names out last week from practice. A lot of guys getting rest. Nothing real big quite yet, but, you never know. It is football. Guys get injured. That it just is what it is. So let me know at the pinned comment of today's video, are you nervous about any of these injuries that, Alabama has suffered outside Jalen Hale? Obviously, he got injured a long time ago, probably won't be back this year, but let me know at the pinned comment of today's video. Type Y for yes or N for no. Are you nervous about some of these injuries for Alabama? Kalen DeBoer also gave us a little bit of an update at that right tackle position. We know, we've been talking about it so much. It's, it's been a lot. There's only a couple position battles really going on. Really, the corner and right tackle are the biggest position battles. And really, it's between Elijah Pritchett and Wilkin Formby, man. And I tell you what, I still really like Wilkin Formby. Not saying Elijah Pritchett can't go out there and win the job, but I think just the fact that Elijah Pritchett was over at left tackle throughout the spring gave Wilkin Formby a little bit more time, more reps at that right tackle spot. He might, this is just my opinion, he might have a little bit of an edge there. This is what Kalen DeBoer said exactly about that right tackle battle. He said, it could be a position, I think, until we get to come game time reps. I don't know if we'll have it completely ironed out just based on the way it's gone so far. Both guys have their strengths and the things that they do really well, and those come out. It's not like I feel like either of them are a liability or anything. It's just a matter of figuring out which one is going to be our guy. They both have done a lot to earn a lot of reps. Now, I said this back in the springtime. I thought Elijah Pritchett looked really good out there. Now, he was working at that left tackle position for the most part, but I mean, tackle's kind of tackle. It is a little bit different, obviously, but I think just the growth and the confidence from Elijah Pritchett was really, really notable during that spring game. And Kalen DeBoer also talked about the fact that there's some good, there's some bad from both guys. They're really starting to iron a lot of this out, and it makes me wonder, what is the good, what is the bad? Last year, Elijah Pritchett in 95 snaps graded out really, really good from Pro Football Focus when it came to run blocking. His biggest thing was pass blocking. He was not the best at it. Gave up 3 sacks last year. I'm pretty sure all 3 of them were in that Arkansas game. I'd have to go back and look at PFF, but I'm almost positive it was in that Arkansas game when Kadyn Proctor came out. So, man, Elijah Pritchett, he came to Alabama, one of the best players in the country. Man, I really hope he can take that step forward and just continue to develop, because at the end of the day, I would really like Elijah Pritchett to be the starter. He's a year older. He's a redshirt sophomore. You got Wilkin Formby, redshirt freshman. But at the end of the day, I really do not care who it is. I just want the best player to play. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor here on today's video. It is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. It's super, super simple to play. All you do is you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch those winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks, and you can turn $10 into $1,000. Super, super simple. You just sign up today, and you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is just guaranteed. These are my season-long picks for this year. I got Jalen Milroe, that more than 2,574.5 passing yards. I feel like I kind of said that funny, but you guys see it right there on the screen. You guys get it. Zachariah Brandt's a really, really good wide receiver out of USC. I've got the more than on him for 649.5 receiving yards on the season, and the Luther Burden, I've got the more than on him as well for receiving yards. I just think he's one of the best wide receivers in the country this year. Pretty much, barring anything crazy happening, I think he's a bona fide first-round draft pick for next year's NFL draft. And I just want to note also, you don't have to get all of them. Yeah, if you want to go the power play, that's great. But if you go the flex play, you only have to get 2 out of the 3 right. The payout is a little bit less, but you know what? You still, come out on top at the end of the day. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game. Kalen DeBoer also gave us a little bit of an update on the defensive line, particularly on how they have looked against the run. And this is one of the biggest things, I think, for me personally, that I have been a little bit nervous about, is how that defensive line is going to look against the run. Kalen DeBoer saying, I do think our defensive line is doing a really good job against the run. I think that's really, really important to note, because with this defensive line, their splits are going to be a little bit wider. And, I have a lot of faith in the guys on the defensive line, whether that's Tim Smith, whether that's Tim Keeney, whether that's Jaheim Otis. Really, those last 2 guys are my favorite guys on the defensive line. But then you got like LT Overton, Jamarian Latham. Whether Keon Keeley gets in there, we don't really know yet. But I think you have the guys. I think you have the depth on the defensive line. I just, I have been a little bit worried with this new defense. The splits are a little bit wider. I just, I'll believe it when I see it. I believe Kalen DeBoer that he's telling the truth. The defensive line has been good against the run, especially against Alabama's running backs, who I think are going to be some of the best running backs, probably the best running back room, at least in the SEC this year. Whether that's Justice Haynes, whether that's Jam Miller going out there, whether that's Richard Young as well. If they're doing well against those guys, I'll take Kalen DeBoer at his word for it and believe that the run defense is looking pretty good for Alabama this season. So let me know in the comments section of today's video. Grade your confidence level for me in Alabama's run defense. Scale it for me 1 to 10, 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Let me know right now in the comments section. Kalen DeBoer also gave a little bit of an update. We really haven't talked about special teams that much. We've been talking about some of the, punt return options for Alabama a little bit, but we really haven't talked too much about those real special guys. And really, he threw James Burnip really a bone today. James Burnip last year, one of the best punters in the country. He's on some watch lists already this year going into the season. Last year, 59 punts, averaging 57.5 yards, pinned the opposing teams inside their own 20 25 times. So that's just under 50%. That's really, really good. And then, we talked about that hang time, or, Kalen DeBoer also talked about the hang time that he's able to put on the ball. Only 7 yards per return on James Burnip punts last year. You just give him another year. I think he's going to be, even better this year. This is what Kalen DeBoer said about James Burnip and, just how he's coming along as a punter this season. He said, this offseason. He says, I was interested to see how he'd come through the summer and if he was ready to go. He was definitely ready to go. And he continues to not just kick it with great hang time and have distance, but those specialty areas where you're trying to pin people down inside the 10. He's been really, really consistent that way too. Now that's really, really great to hear about James Burnip. Who are the guys that are going to be on the offensive side or on Alabama's side of the ball when they're returning punts? Really, these are really the guys that Kalen DeBoer has been talking about as punt returners pretty much for the last couple of weeks now. Jeremy Bernard, I think he's probably the guy that they run out there at the beginning of the season. Kalen DeBoer is saying, they really, really like him because, they feel really positive that he is going to be sure-handed. He's not going to be muffin kicks. He's going to be catching them in the air and not letting them, roll another 10, 15, 20 yards downfield. But I also do think it's notable that he also said Jalen Ibakwe, Ryan Williams as well back there. And I've been saying this for a while now, I know Caleb Downs did it at the end of the season last year. I'm always a little, kind of iffy about putting a freshman out there to return punts just because of the inexperience at the end of the day. I do as well like Kendrick Law possibly being back there, but I think I would like him, a little bit more, kind of more as a kick returner instead of a punt returner. But at the end of the day, all four of these guys are pretty much the four most explosive guys I think that Alabama could put back there, to return punts this season. So the last opportunity to get in the comments section of today's video, pick a punt returner for me, guys. If you think it's going to be Jeremy Bernard, type GB. If you think it's going to be Ryan Williams, type RW. If you think it's Jalen Ibakwe, type JM. Or if you think it's going to be Kendrick Law returning punts for Alabama this season, type KL in the comments section.